Hello, Jeremy Harper here. Today we're talking about rent vesting. It's a concept you may have heard online and in the media. I guess what is it and how does it apply to you? So it's a concept of a borrower wanting to live in an area that they desire. So this could be a lifestyle, could be where they work, could be close to where they grew up. And instead of purchasing a property in that area, and quite often that's because of affordability issues, they may not have the deposit or the borrowing capacity to buy into that area. They will continue to live there from a lifestyle point of view, and in the meantime, rent vest, which means to commence investing in property in other areas, investment properties. And so the strategy is based off that you do not want to give up that lifestyle. So a lot of people may not be comfortable with the idea of I'm moving out of a spot, say in inner Sydney, for a place that I can afford to get a mortgage and actually have my deposit. I'd need to maybe move out an hour and a half, 2 hours from work, and that's not something people are prepared to do. So they're foregoing that option of purchasing the owner-occupied property up front, and they are instead saying, I will invest in areas that I can afford as investment property whilst I am maintaining my current lifestyle. So you're using the leverage of those investment properties to work towards you as you gear up and borrow and expand your property portfolio. So it may mean that that first property, you use your current deposit, you either have sufficient 15-20% deposit to get into that property and not have to pay mortgage insurance, or you may have options, family guarantors. There may be other options available where you can get in or even pay mortgage insurance, settle on that property, get a tenant in there, and all of a sudden that that income and that interest deduction can be used on your mortgage application for your second and third property whilst you're maintaining your lifestyle. And for a lot of people, trying to minimize their outgoings. So that could be maybe they're living with their family rent free, so that's reducing how much their monthly outgoings are. Perhaps they've moved in with their partner, so they've got two incomes to pay down their rent expense if they're renting, or they may move in with a housemate to reduce their rental outgoings. Where it doesn't work is when someone goes and lives in, say, if in Sydney, they take out a 2-bedroom lease on an apartment in Surrey Hills, they're paid $900 a week, and then they're trying to then go ahead and purchase a investment property and start their rent investing journey. What you'll find is that expense will have a huge reduction on their borrowing capacity. It may actually be a roadblock into them actually starting this rent investing journey. So who is it suitable for? So as I said earlier, if you can't get into that area that you want to live in, you may want to continue to either take up one of those options, have a housemate, live with your family, or take out another option, and then starting that journey by acquiring affordable property in other markets. Where this will work particularly well for younger borrowers who are starting their journey in terms of their personal income is growing. So if you think about it as your POYG, or if you're running your own business, as that income increases, as you start to mature in your career, you will start to pay more and more income tax. And so if you take on a rent vesting strategy, typically you're gearing up the properties. So even if with the interest rates as they are right now, even at 80% mortgage, you may be negatively geared, as in that deduction is coming off against your taxable income. So you're getting that back on your tax as a refund every year, because that loss on that investment property is offsetting some of the tax that you would have paid against your personal income. So as you start to build out that investment property or that portfolio, you're building up these deductions on multiple properties more and more, and that will, two things, result in higher tax refunds or less net tax paid. So you'll get back some of the tax that was withheld off your personal income. And then number two, from a borrowing capacity, you'll be able to leverage that. So we'll be able to go back to the lender and borrow back against that scenario by using the investment deduction on each proposed loan, on current loan, and also use the proposed rental income on the current and the future properties that we're looking to acquire. So that's who it's suitable for. So someone that's starting out their career or in their career and that can't get into that family home that they would like to live in that desirable area, but want to continue to build some wealth in the background. And who's it not suitable for? So what I come across is for some young families, they do get into that nesting family or nesting phase. And in that scenario, they would prefer to get into a property that they can occupy, so that they can do some improvements to, that they can see themselves raising their family in that property long term. And that's something that I think needs to be, as a discussion, needs to be made outside of the numbers, because ultimately you need to think about, what is suitable. If you've got a couple of young children, you want to have that stability. You want to make sure that you can be in a property that it's not going to get sold underneath from you. There's not going to be a turnover of landlords, as in they could put the pressure on you to move out. They want to renovate the property, they want to sell it. So there's that instability there. So I do find that this may not be suitable for the younger families out there who need to have that stability for their kids, particularly if they need to be in a school zone or a certain area or a certain catchment zone. So that's one. Also for people heading towards retirement. So if you think about someone that is looking to reduce their personal taxable income, let's say in the next 5 years, taking on a bunch of non-deductible debt, taking on a bunch of deductible debt over that next couple of years before retirement does not make sense, because let's say they have acquired 2 properties that are now negatively geared. They only see themselves working for a couple of years, and then after that, maybe they're going to take out some pension or a superannuation stream from their superannuation at retirement. That would become non-taxable income, and they would have these tax losses on these investment properties sitting on their tax return. So it's not really a suitable strategy. But that's something to think about. So it's important to work out where you sit, what are your goals, and if this strategy is suitable for you. It's a fantastic strategy that can work really well for some people, but it has to be aligned with your goals. So if you have any questions or if you want to discuss this, please reach out to us. Thanks, guys.